here we are again. Yet another anime-inspired Batman adaptation. Or is it a Batman-inspired anime adaptation? I don't know, it's hard to know this time around. Suicide Squad Isekai is exactly what it says it is. Task Force X travels from this world to another. And in case you didn't get that, Clayface will go ahead and walk you through it a million more times. It's the same basic setup as any Suicide Squad story. Amanda Waller assembles a team of no-good criminals to send on missions and do her dirty work, and entices them with the threat of a massive headache, triggered by the explosives planted in their necks. If they cooperate and do as they're told, she'll reduce their sentence at Belle Reve. Except, this time around she's not looking to take anyone down, but instead she's looking to establish a connection to this other world. And by connection, I mean she wants its resources. The team this time around consists of the clown princess of crime, Harley Quinn, the man with perfect aim, Deadshot, the violent war machine on a mission for peace, Peacemaker, a thespian with the power of plastic surgery, minus the plastic, Clayface, the man with the plan, Rick Flag, and King Shark. Just King Shark. Oh, and then there's also the baby dragon that Harley decides to kidnap/adopt. His name's Arthur. Aww. When they enter this world, they find that they're the second squad sent into it, with the first one running roughshod and wreaking havoc. So the second squad is essentially sent in to go after the first. Because, you know, the only way to stop a group of bad guys with weapons is another group of bad guys with weapons. You know, it worked so well the first time, why not add some more? The original task force consisted of Ratcatcher, the Thinker, Enchantress, Killer Croc, and apparently Katana. Now that team operated under Rick Flag until they went rogue and staged a mutiny. So now the new team works under him. When they want to. If they want to. And if they'd like to keep their heads. More often than not, they're not listening to his word, despite the fact that their lives literally depend on it. The task force actually needs to hit a checkpoint every 72 hours. Otherwise, the bombs implanted in their necks will go off. As always, Amanda Waller is the man in the chair, pulling the strings from a completely different universe. Something worth mentioning is that this new world seems to affect the characters, giving or altering the team's abilities. Clayface's ability to morph into others now extends to him having the ability to mold anything made out of clay. Harley has some sort of charge up. Even by the end of it, I'm not entirely sure what it was that she does, but it looks effective nonetheless. Ratcatcher, who had the ability to manipulate herds of rats, has moved up in the world, as now he controls an army of wolfmen. Something I really want to point out here is that a lot of the depictions of characters feel heavily inspired on the most recent versions of the villains. While Clayface is made into a Michael Jackson impersonator, for some reason, something that the show is completely well aware of and acknowledges, his characterization feels like the character was plucked straight out of the Harley Quinn show. Harley Quinn, on the other hand, while the characterization feels somewhat in line with Tara Strong's most recent outings as the character, the design itself is heavily inspired by the DCU's Harley Quinn, as played by Margot Robbie. Likewise, King Shark feels very much in line with the King Shark from the DCU, and I guess also the DCU. Yeah, that's a little confusing. And while this Peacemaker is no John Cena, with this version of the character having no sense of humor and not being played for laughs, I think that the character's mere inclusion in this, and especially his appearance, is heavily influenced by John Cena's time in the role. I don't know that many people would even try to argue that. I mean, for the most part, the squad members used on the show are the same ones shown on the big screen, with the exception of Clayface. I mean, you could say, oh well, they're all team members, but the team is actually interchangeable and has had several lineups over the years. So I can imagine that they specifically picked which ones they felt audiences would most be familiar with. Even outside of the characters and their characterization, it felt like the show was taking a few other cues from the movies as well, as the Joker's place in the plot is to be a part of flashbacks with no major bearing on the plot at hand. That is until the climax where he shows back up and teases making an appearance in future events, which is the exact same thing Jared Leto did in the first Suicide Squad movie. Characters just present for Harley's origin and a Season 2 stinger. But we'll get into those spoilers a little bit later on. Like any good Suicide Squad story, it sees the team at odds with each other at first, but in spite of themselves, they begin to somewhat bond over time. Also like any good Suicide Squad story, It has a lot of the team bantering, bickering, and just downright brawling. I think this show definitely captured the sheer dysfunction of the pairing of a group like this. I'm gonna be honest, it took me a while to check this one out, because I didn't really think I'd like it. And when I first started watching the series, well, I wasn't all that impressed. Anime's not really my thing. I like Yu-Gi-Oh! And now I guess My Hero Academia, but otherwise, I don't know. Having said that, the more I watched this show, the more I actually found myself pretty fond of it. It is shockingly good. Is it a unique premise in of itself? No, the genre's pretty popular at this point. I think just about everybody's doing it. But it's a unique experience for the DC banner, for these characters, and for people who like these characters, setting itself apart from other anime-adjacent, Batman-adjacent outings. Like, if I showed you this scene right here, would you believe that it was from something rooted in the Batman mythos? Or how about this? Okay, alright, stop it. Take it away, please. That's more than enough of that. What this show gets right is that it makes sure that despite its bizarre premise, the characters still feel like the characters. Despite the world around them feeling completely foreign to fans, they genuinely do feel like the characters from the comics that are just now misplaced in some fairy tale. Once again, with the exception of Clayface, who feels much more played for laughs like his Harley Quinn show counterpart. And I think that's actually pretty impressive, especially when there's other DC anime-inspired projects coming out that sound like they're going to be less of an adaptation and instead more of a completely different thing, just utilizing pre-existing names. Keep in mind, it is August when I'm making this, so who knows, maybe in the future it won't be as bad, but it sure sounds like it. The characters are fun but mostly vague. You get to know just enough about the team to take a liking to them, but not enough to really get to know them. Despite this, every character gets a chance to shine. Though I think the obvious standouts here are definitely Harley Quinn and Clayface. Harley, because let's be honest, that character just demands attention, and is basically if screaming into a megaphone was a personality, and Clayface because the show turns him into the Prince of Personality as well as a punchline. When the team arrive on this alternate Earth, they're attacked by orcs, and after defeating and disposing of them, they're brought to their enemy's kingdom, where the team goes back and forth between being prisoners of that kingdom and warriors in their army. Yet despite all the good that they've done, the kingdom still remains divided on these villains turned anti-hero, with the Elder Knight Cecil and the Princess Fionn believing in and actually taking a liking to the titular team, while the Queen remains unamused. This causes some conflict in the family, as the princess remains too afraid to speak up, and her voice is often overpowered by her overbearing mother, something Harley is quick to call her out on. But when Harley talks to Fionn, it almost sounds as if she's talking to herself. Her past self, that is. Seeing Fionn as a representation of who she once was. However, it's later revealed that not all is what it seems, as the Queen has in actuality been the undead king, benefiting from the war by becoming stronger with each and every death. She lashes out at the task force for ending the war. The princess finds herself inspired by Harley, and steps up to the plate to fight off the threat to her kingdom, even managing to steal her signature look. And wouldn't you know it, now Harley takes a liking to the now Queen. And I'm gonna pause the plot right here because this seems like an oversight and a mistake overall. Because I get that Harley gave her the strength to find her voice and fight. That's all well and good, that's cool. But I think with the show still showcasing Harley as being brainwashed and very much enamored with her abuser, that there might be some conflicting messages there. I think Fionn sees Harley as freeing, but she's really shackled to a psychopath. Anyway, in the end, they rescue Enchantress, have her join the ranks, a fully grown Artie comes back, and the threat is defeated. Time to go back home, right? Well, almost. It is then revealed that the Joker actually infiltrated this Alter Earth, and his otherworldly ability has him morph into anyone he likes. Not entirely unlike Clayface. And apparently it's been the Joker that's been manipulating this whole war by disguising himself as various characters throughout the first season run. Most notably being Katana. All of this seemingly just in an effort to entertain himself and play with Harley. At the end of the day, the SSI is interesting, but I also think the isekai market is looking a little full these days. And I don't know if this stands out so much in a sea of other similar stories. Of course, I'm not necessarily a fan of that market, I guess aside from Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz, which are kind of the originals. But as a Suicide Squad fan, I think this show is worth the watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it, a lot more than I thought I would, and I would honestly watch more of it if there was more of it to watch. But I also wouldn't be surprised if this was the last time we see this version of the team, because once again, that genre's kinda cornered. Having said that, there are a couple plot points I really liked that I want to put attention on. Initially, Deadshot tries to play Peacemaker, ironically, with him thinking that he and Ratcatcher were friends from their days behind bars, only to find out that Ratcatcher felt tormented by Deadshot, who, in all honesty, was actually trying to do right by him. And I just think that that miscommunication is really funny. You know, perception is reality after all. The Thinker has the ability to get inside the mind of his targets, and he unnerves the team. But when he tries to do the same to Harley, she leans into his mind games and flips the tables on him. Because in terms of mental scars, that damage has already been done. She's already had another madman tamper with and mangle her mind. Seeing Killer Croc and King Shark go at it is a fight that just feels right. I think they make for more natural enemies than Croc and Bane, who typically seem to be the pairing that people go with. And I think the show did a good job of showing both the similarities and the differences between these two. It was just fun seeing them throw fists and fins. It might be a little underdeveloped and also a minor addition, but I really like the Harley and Enchantress dynamic. The two can read each other, and they almost kinda come off as long-lost siblings, looking out for each other even when they're foes, and pretending not to like each other when they're teammates. Harley becoming a mother to a baby dragon feels very in line with her character, as she already plays mommy to a pair of hyenas, who randomly appear mid-Sailor Moon transformation later on in the show. There are also definitely some hang-ups I have with the show as well. The characterization of certain characters was great, but there was a couple that I felt were a little lacking. I mentioned that good Suicide Squad stories had the team be both friend and foe, but a good Suicide Squad story also sees some of the squad meet their end on missions. Now the series plays with that idea, having multiple members of the team die throughout, but they always walk it back. All of these would-be deaths are shown to be fake-outs. Fake-outs that last minutes at maximum. And I don't know, to me, teasing that finality but then never actually acting on it just kind of feels a little cheap. Some of my complaints probably seem a little stupid, but I feel like I know these characters relatively well. So there's going to be a couple things that might just annoy me as an avid reader and watcher. And I could be wrong here, but I don't know that Amanda Waller would refer to herself as crazy. I always thought she saw herself as a necessary evil. Someone who does really bad things for a seemingly good cause. So no, I don't think that she'd think of herself as crazy. Actually, I would think that she thinks of herself as the most rational person who's ever lived. I didn't care for the show's Joker. In terms of performance, it almost sounds like someone trying to find the medium between a Mark Hamill Joker impersonation and your traditional anime voice. And you know what? I think it almost does the job. It's enough for me to get what they're going for, but I don't really like it in execution. I have very mixed feelings about the show's Clayface, because like I said, I think it's pretty in line with the one from that other show. And I like the one from that other show, and I like the one from this show too. But I really hope that this doesn't become the norm. Basil Carlo is actually my favorite Clayface, and Clayface is one of my favorite villains. I understand the creative behind this, I just hope more don't follow suit. Because art inspires and influences art. So I don't really want future creators seeing this or seeing the one from that other show and thinking, ah yes, this is what that character's supposed to be. I actually happen to love these versions of the character because that's not the case. I think if that ended up becoming the case, I'd probably wind up resenting them. Because there's actually a really interesting character and narrative in the source material, and I'd kinda like to see it played out on screen. Still, nonetheless, I like this for what it is. I also kind of felt that the series depicted Joker and Harley as a little bit too romantic for my taste. I don't know if future installments will show that Harley's just a lovesick, unreliable narrator, but if that's not the case, then I think the Joker was a little too into Harley. Because in reality, the Joker should just be into what she could do for him. I'll also say that I'm interested in the cliffhanger, but I don't like it. Clayface already serves the role of the Transformer. So I think Joker getting his abilities kind of takes a little bit away from what makes Clayface special. And also, it takes away from what makes Joker special. Because Joker, for as bad as he is, for as big of a threat as he has been, He is the absolute worst in humanity. And the fact that he doesn't have powers is kind of the point, because he shows just how dangerous ordinary people can be. I can't fault the show for giving him powers when entering this alternate universe does in fact give people powers, but I still wish that they didn't. And I especially wish that they didn't give him somebody else's powers, because it's a move that I think winds up cheapening two villains as opposed to just one. In the end, this season was a lot more entertaining than I would have ever given it credit for. I can't really comment on it as an anime fan, because I'm not one. Maybe it really sucks to people who are fond of that art form, but as a DC fan, yeah, I dig it. I didn't think I would, but I do. And I think it's one of the better uses of the team in modern media. If there's more, I'd like to see more, and I hope to see more. And if you'd like to see more, and you like this video, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
Suicide Squad! Attack!
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.